without saying like the whole racism thing, it's like you and I both understand that like throughout Jim Crow and like history, like those sort of they have been intertwined into how the U.S. does things, generally speaking.
Right.
And no, the people in power have not had an interest to change those things because
Right.
it doesn't suit them, and so the echoes of them still exist, and that's what we're seeing today.
Right.
But with that said, like you were saying, it's like each individual is their own person, and if you were to lump everybody together, it's like you lose the idea of the individual.
That's like the epitome of like racism. Like you're saying, like like I'm black, I can't be racist because of the past. Like my ancestors was like, no, dude, like it doesn't work like that. It's like you can be a certain person and be discriminate towards another person because of what happened in the past. That's racism. That's you're literally lumping like a group of people or categorizing a group of people, and you're discriminating them based off the past. Like that's racism itself. So it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. And it's like, well, like you gotta like see it from like an objective sense. Like that's like literally what racism is. Like you can't discriminate people based on what happened in the past. And that's and that's another thing. There's another thing that plays into the racism, because like you have your individual races that play into the system, and like they hold like some type of constituent or a place of power.
Right.
Like say a good example would be like Bill Clinton.
Right.
Like he signed that bill that incarcerated a lot of like people of color.
Yeah. Was it the '94?
Yeah, and what's the guy's name he was a KKK leader back then. His name's like Robert. I think it was like Robert Kraft, I think, or something like that.
Robert Kraft is the Patriots owner.
Yeah, dude. Or I don't know if it was Robert Kraft or it was someone named Robert. I forgot who it was, but there's a picture of like Joe Biden. He was like, I guess they were like on a parade car or something. There was like a picture of him waving, and the KKK leader right below him. So it's like you're saying you're for black people and like people of color, but like during your career, like in politics, you put more black people in prison. The people of color in prison over the course of like 5 decades. So like how long have you've like been in politics? So it's like people need to understand, like, doesn't even like set aside all these politics, like identity politics, just crumple up, throw out the window, and just see it for what it really is. So it's like the Democrat Party. You see all these people that say, "Oh, we're for you." We're the party for color. Gays, activism, all that type of stuff. I was like, okay. So what are you going to do for us? Oh, we're going to sign a new bill that, let you get married to whoever you want to. We're going to do a bill where, illegal immigrants can get school without having to pay. They get government assistance. We'll do a law to, it panders to black people. We'll paint, a street Black Lives Matter to show that we care. It's like, okay, yeah, that's cool. So what are you going to do about, the police brutality? And what are you going to do about all these, officers that have committed these heinous crimes against people, like innocent people that didn't do anything? It's just like, what are you going to do? Because exactly but the Republicans do the same thing. So it's just like you got all these people in positions of power. It's like, oh no, let's give more power to the Democrats. Let's see what they're gonna give us all. Like they're gonna make all these promises. They're gonna fix all these issues for us. Like no, let's give our vote to the Republicans. They're gonna do everything right. So it's just like.
It's the same thing every 4 years. They've all promised.
Yeah, they all make these promises. So it's just like
they'll promise whatever they want to get elected.
Exactly. They just want the power. They want control. And that's what I want. Like a lot of my friends to understand. It's just like you don't have to look like what Killer Mike said in that Revolt song. It's perfect. He's like you're fighting over who's the best master. Yeah. Essentially, it's like you're already free. Mm-hmm. Just sit down and see what you have and what can they provide for you? What change is going to happen? You got to sit down, do your research. You can't just go based off of identity politics, and that's a big thing for me. So it's just because that's what my parents taught me. It's you got to sit down and see what's right for you. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay. So I sat down and researched, and I saw Donald Trump. He's like, well, I'm gonna. He had a whole list of stuff that he was gonna try to do, and I was like, okay, that's actually kind of really promising. Then Hillary Clinton had stuff that she was going to kind of feed off of what Obama already did, but kind of tweak it, stuff and make it a little better. But at the same time, it was their whole situation with Benghazi where she got people killed and she she got caught pretty much. Yeah. And it's just I don't want someone like that in office. So it was kind of choosing the lesser two evils. I'll just pick Trump because he's I never had someone who's not a politician be in office. Let's see what can happen. So it's I was kind of I was optimistic to see what happened, but he's done a lot of good things, but he's done a lot of bad things in terms of the public opinion and like divisiveness and like not being empathetic towards what's been going on. But yeah, I just wish like a lot of my friends that happen to be black or colored, they kind of like have like just get an eye opener and kind of see things from like an objective sense and kind of like not see it as identity politics and like pick who's the best match or like Democrat or Republican. Just kind of see like here's like our list of like what Killer Mike said, like here's our demands. What can you give us?
Right, and you know what I mean. Pick which one based on who can
and like
for us,
and not just like a career. And like another thing is like the career politicians. That's got to stop too. Like you can't have like Nancy Pelosi and like Adam Schiff and like all the other like Adam Schumer and like or Chuck Schumer. I'm sorry. Like they have all like their districts.
Mitch McConnell.
Like they're like you take a look at their like. They virtual signal to all these different types of marginalized people, and like all you gotta do is look at their districts. Like look at San Francisco. I remember like when I was like a little younger, my parents like they would go up there when my dad was active duty, and like they would show me pictures of like all the different places they visit when and it was like super nice. Like it was all organized. Like the infrastructure, the city infrastructure was good. Like there's no like there's always gonna be homeless people, but it wasn't as bad as it is now. Like there's homeless people like defecating in the streets. Like and there's like needles everywhere, and it's just like the state and local government, they give homeless people like needles. So it's just like you want to have someone like that like in like politics like over a span of decades, and they tell you and they pander like, oh, it's going to get better, we'll fix it. It's like you had this amount of time to fix it, you couldn't do it. So like what I mean? It's like people need to understand like like don't let those people control you and like put you in a state of like a fear and nothing get done, because that's how like that's because the Democrat Party like they won't survive without the black vote. That's why there's always like that. There's always something about black like something like black on black crime or like injustice, police brutality. Like they use that, and they use the media to control the narrative to keep people under. So it's like if you vote for us, we'll fix it. Like we'll put Black Lives Matters on the street. We'll do this and that, but there's no police reform. So the only thing they did, like we talked about the Minneapolis thing. Did you hear about that? So the city council members, they all agreed to dismantle the police. So like it's already in the first early stages of like defunding and like replacing it with like another public service. So it's like, okay, like if that's a disaster, like that should be kind of like an example of like what not to do. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But even if it works, then it's like, okay, well then maybe we should do that. So it's like it's both ways.